Good evening. I want to call this meeting of City Council to order, but I'm immediately handing it off to Vice Mayor Anduri because I am participating remotely, and it's always better to have somebody in the actual room to run the meeting. So thank you, Vice Mayor. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. All right, now I'll call the meeting to order, the City Council meeting August 11th. Since I am participating remotely, I'm immediately handing this meeting over to Vice Mayor Carl Anduri because it's definitely better to have somebody in the room running the meeting. So thank you so much, Vice Mayor.
We're called to order. And Mayor Kandel, we are going to assume that there is no public with you during the course of the meeting. If anyone does join you, please let us know, because then we'll call for public comment at your location as well as this location. All right, roll call. Let the record show that all council members are present. Mayor Kandel virtually, all other council members in person, and we want to welcome Councilmember Witherspoon to her first meeting. Welcome. Yes. Item 3 is irrelevant. Do we have a motion for adoption of the agenda?
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. We'll do all roll call votes tonight. So Mayor Kandel.
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick.
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's unanimous. The agenda is adopted. We're now on public comments on the closed session item. Is there any public comment?
Vice Mayor Anduri, I have no speakers in the community hall, and I have no hands raised in our virtual audience.
Okay, so the council will now go into closed session, and we will resume at 6:20 or thereabouts.
Back on this, there you go. We're ready, CJ.
Okay, it's 6:23. We're back from closed session. There is no reportable action. For those of you who are joining the meeting in progress, Mayor Candell is participating virtually and asked me to lead the meeting in the room. Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we meet this evening, we acknowledge that Lafayette is part of the unceded ancestral homeland of the Bay Miwok people. The Bay Miwok and neighboring Ohlone people have lived in and moved through this place for thousands of years. They stewarded and shaped this land for hundreds of generations. We express our appreciation and gratitude for this profound legacy, which enhances and contributes to our lives to this day. We will strive to honor this land and strengthen our ties with the indigenous communities that continue to live and work in our East Bay region as our neighbors and community members. We acknowledge and honor them and their ancestors, elders, and next 7 generations. We're now open for public comment. If anyone has a comment on an item that is not on the agenda, you will have 3 minutes.
We have one speaker in the Don Tatson Community Hall, and I have no hands raised yet in our virtual audience, but I will call Shane Reisman to the podium, please.
Can I begin? Mr. President?
Hi, everyone. My name is Shane Reisman. I met most of you. I live in Lafayette, in Newport Valley. Hi, my name is Shane Reisman. I live in Lafayette, in Burton Valley. I've met many of you. I spent a lot of time on the Lafayette-Moraga Trail. And one of the things that I noticed in walking along the trail is that there aren't that many signs, and you can walk miles without realizing why you're there or where you are, or the significance of such an important spot. So I partnered with these wonderful folks behind me, who many of you know: Mary from the Lafayette Historic Society, Susan from the Moraga Historic Society, and Mike Moran, our partner from East Bay Parks, to come together on a collaboration to create 9 interpretive panels along the Lafayette-Moraga Trail, starting at Olympic staging and going all the way to Valley Vista. Very cool signage, very cool images, very cool content that I've worked with the experts to spin up and meet the requirements of signs and awesome educational interpretive material that we've created and submitted to East Bay Parks. And so I just wanted to raise everybody's awareness. Lots of people in this room have been very, very helpful along the way. We're kind of done. So the content itself is available and posted online at lmhistorytrail.org. And you can see the awesome pictures and you can see how being in that spot and looking at these signs and looking at the imagery really puts you in that place in time. It's educational. I think it's gonna be a lot of valuable content for students and passersby. So I just want to open the floor 30 seconds for Mary and Susan to say anything awesome about their experience working together. And then Mike can give us an update on the next steps and where we're at. Nothing to say? Okay, great. Mike?
Happy to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, just such an incredible partnership. I've just absolutely loved working with these people and everything that they know, and their awesome expertise is just such a resource and treasure. It's just been incredible. So very excited to be at this point. Mike, take it away.
Thanks so much. I'm Mike Moran. I'm one of the Regional Interpretive Recreation Services Managers for East Bay Regional Park District. Thanks for having us here. Everything that Shane has just said has been true to the nth degree. It's been a real pleasure, and I grew up in Orinda, moved there in 1968, and Lafayette Moraga Trail was a big part of my childhood, and knowing that this kind of information is going to be passed on to everybody who passes by here has just been really exciting for us too at the Park District. It's great to work with partners to develop content. Our job now is to get those stands in place. We'll have to go out and do another scouting or reconnaissance trip to make sure that we're putting them in the right spot, not just for interpretive purposes, but also for the utilities, the right-of-ways, things like that. We will do that meeting on either this coming Thursday or the next Friday. At that point in time, we'll work on our final edits, going back and forth with the great team that we have here, and then we'll get those stands into the ground and the panels in. So the timing with East Bay Regional Parks, all the other things we have going on, is open. I wish I can give you a great hard date, but that's all to be determined. But the work of these fine folks has actually greased the skids and really moved us a lot more quickly than we normally do if we're all done internally to the Park District. So it's been a great pleasure, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
All right. Actually, would either of you like to say a few words?
I'm Susan Sperry, president of the Moraga Historical Society, but I also worked, there were two other people, John Kaiser, our IT man, and Susan Skilton, who is a registered genealogist, and along with Mary, and we worked together and went through many renditions and came up with this final copy that Shane has now.
As someone who likes to get out and walk around Lafayette, it's going to be really nice to head towards Moraga if I can make it all the way and look at all the panels that we've talked about. And I think a lot of people don't know why the trail is there and what was there before. So this will be really educational. So thanks for your support.
Great. Are there any questions for the speakers? Councilmember McCormick.
Great. I want to thank you very much. I'm a big fan of signage. I involved a lot of them. I apologize if I missed this, but how is it being funded, and how is that working out? Is that East Bay Regional Park that's funding it, or how is that?
Great question. So
Actually, if you want to go to the microphone.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a great question. Signs are about $1,000 each, and working closely with East Bay Regional Park District, they're going to do a lot of the fabrication. They're going to do the fabrication and the installation. So it's pretty reasonably priced. It's about $10,000, and we're working with the Community Federation in both cities and other organizations that will be willing to fund it. But we're sort of looking at that timeline, dependent on, like Mike said, when things get installed. But it's reasonable. I'm not asking for money. Yeah. No.
Okay, great.
Don't worry.
And just to confirm, no, it's a great part. And just confirm, what was the website again that people can look
Yeah,
at?
lmhistorytrail.org.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think I stumbled upon your website. Maybe you posted it on Facebook, Lumber into Families, and I was really impressed. I am so happy that you took this project on. I think the history of this city is fascinating, and the trail especially. And I think that you've captured so many aspects of it that are going to be really kind of delightful for people who pass through, and maybe some surprises. Yeah, so thank you.
And to follow up on Councilmember McCormick, is it helpful having individual contributions for this? Or are you all set on the fundraising side?
I think it's probably better without. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This is a great project, and really appreciate Commissioner Reisman, you're leading off on this and everybody's work on it. And I would remind everybody, next year is officially the 50th anniversary of the trail. So we'll be celebrating the big 50th anniversary next year.
And I think we need to thank Shane. He came up with the idea and then really made it happen. So thank you so much for your leadership.
Okay. Is there any other public comment?
No additional public comment at this time.
Okay, so we're on item 10, City Manager's Update.
can't believe I'm saying it. School starts tomorrow, and the police department is ready. The officers will be at each school tomorrow to welcome back our students. And just a request to everyone who drives their kids to school, please slow down, allow time for travel and for delays, and be patient. The Lafayette PD is hosting Coffee with the Cops at Sideboard this Wednesday, which is the 13th, from 9 to 10 a.m. Please do stop by and have coffee with them. Next Wednesday, the 20th, the PD is hosting a Patrol Saturation Day, which means they'll be out there monitoring speeds with motor officers from Danville and Orinda to deter and enforce driving violations, including violations on e-bikes. The Lafayette PD, as always, encourages the community, if you see something, say something, and call the Lafayette PD at our non-emergency number, if it's not an emergency, at 925-284-5010. The Public Art Committee is excited to announce that it's approved a mural design by Lafayette native and artist Rachel Pearls for the city's first work in the downtown mural program. And the mural will be before the City Council in September for approval. From Parks, Trails, and Recreation, the Commission will be discussing field fees and use categories for Buckeye Fields and Community Park at their meeting this coming Wednesday. They will also be discussing an item to remove a grass field and pitching mound at Buckeye to make the facility usable by youth softball groups that have requested access to the fields. Any questions should be directed to the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Director. Summer was a big success for the rec department, and now staff is transitioning back to aftercare. This year, we've expanded after-school care to include sites at the community center, the Lafayette Elementary School, and Stanley Middle School. And childcare continues to be a great need in Lafayette. We have huge wait lists at every site, and the City of Lafayette's Parks Department and Rec Department excited to participate in helping to alleviate some of these problems. From engineering, Associate Engineer Tim Clark is leaving the city and heading to Southern California after 5 years, but not before he completes the St. Mary's Road paving project. We're also in the process of advertising for associate and senior level engineers, and the same with planners. Finally, today the city staff took part in a tabletop emergency operations drill facilitated by EOC Coordinator Andy Comley. This is a discussion-based exercise. It's designed to test and refine our emergency response plans. Participants reviewed our existing plan, our procedures, identified potential challenges, and collaborated on solutions to make our readiness the best it can be. And this is the second in a series of trainings that Andy has provided for city staff. We're going to also be doing a Lafayette emergency drill and one later in the year for a multi-jurisdictional drill. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions? Nope. All right. Is there any public comment?
No public comment?
Okay, we'll move on to item 11A, and I get to call on our Assistant City Manager, new title.
Thank you, Mayor and the City Council. I have the pleasure tonight of introducing two of the newest members of Lafayette staff to you. We're going to start with Kyle Bard. Stand up, Kyle. Kyle is actually in an encore performance here with the city of Lafayette. He had previously worked here as he was a temporary employee with the planning department as the department assistant. And now Kyle has come back to join us in the regular capacity, taking over the front desk administrative assistant mornings. So he takes over for Dana. And so we're very happy to have Kyle back. Kyle is from Pittsburgh. He got his bachelor's degree from Northern Arizona University, and he lived in LA for 2 years. And outside of work, he's a photographer focusing on portrait and concert and event photography. I told Kyle he didn't have to speak, so. But he told me he was very happy to be here.
All right, Kyle, welcome to Lafayette. Welcome back to Lafayette.
The next employee is Heather Ward. Heather is a Lafayette native, and she's very excited to return to her hometown to contribute to the community that she knows and loves. Heather brings over 20 years of distinguished public service in Washington, D.C., where she worked with the U.S. Agency for International Development and the U.S. Department of State to advance U.S. foreign policy and international development initiatives. As a management analyst here in the Administrative Services Department, Heather looks forward to using her deep experience in policy analysis to support city staff and advance the council's priorities. She has a master's degree in public policy from UCLA and a bachelor's from Boston College. And she is back in Lafayette, living here with her husband, her 9-year-old daughter, and her 5-year-old son. She's very excited to rediscover the Bay Area's scenic trails and vibrant culinary scene.
Right, welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm very happy to be back in Lafayette and look forward to engaging with you all to help achieve the City Council's priorities.
Okay, thank you. All right, great. Now, is there any public comment on our new people?
No public comment.
Okay, welcome again. All right, now we're going to hear from Don Tatson, our CCTA board member representing Lafayette and giving us an update on County Connection. And it's always a pleasure to welcome Don Tatson to the Don Tatson Community Hall.
Thank you all. Nice to be here. Did you have a public comment? Well, I wanted to thank the council for my appointment as your board member on the Central Contra Costa Transportation Agency. As this was one of the last positions I took when I was a council member, I find that keeping this one is personally rewarding, so thank you. I've also done, 12 years or so since I first took the position, shortly after Erlinghorn resigned. I've accomplished a lot of what I had hoped to. I've had an influence on the direction of the JPA. I've served on each of the JPA board's 3 committees, and I chaired the agency last year, so I'm not ready to retire yet, but moving in on it. I can see it from here. There are no decisions we're going to ask you to make tonight, but there are a few things I want to alert you that are coming up. So one would be a council position on the sales tax measures that will emanate from Senate Bill 63, which is a proposal for a half-cent sales tax, possibly larger, in several counties across the Bay Area to fund, you've probably heard of the fiscal cliff for transportation. Well, this would help alleviate that for BART and a small number of other agencies. And then I think the other one you'll have to do at some point would be find a new liaison for CCCTA. And just to make it clear, County Connection is not to CTA, except that both have a lot of C's in their names. C's seem to be very popular here. So County Connection provides a service called transportation in the central part of Contra Costa. So basically think of 5 or 6 miles away from I-680 north and south. And CCTA allocates funds countywide and does planning and some project supervision. So they're different animals. I was lucky enough to serve on both. I would encourage each of you to do that, and it's good fun. So, and then also for the County Connection Board, while some of our funding comes through CCTA, not all of it does, which just makes it even more complicated. So whatever you assume you know, you probably don't know enough yet, but you will. So since I stepped down from the council, moving on 7 years ago, I developed Parkinson's disease. Didn't have enough to do. And so that should be an explanation for those of you who are wondering why I am not at the podium, which is where I would normally be. Probably means I either have to step down or just not be reappointed at some time, whichever comes first. One of the features of this disease is that you occasionally lose your voice, and so hopefully that will not happen to me this evening. But if it does, raise your hand, and I will try and go back and speak a little louder. So let's get into it. So we can have our first slide. Okay, so about us. So the County Connection JPA was formed in 1980 by several central county cities that were in existence at that time, and the county. And we serve now 10 cities and towns and unincorporated areas, again, sort of like 6 miles away from Highway 680. A few other items. There is 1 board member per jurisdiction, so we have 11 board members when you take the 10 cities in the county. The tenures are relatively long on this board. So I'm now in my 12th or 13th year, and I'm still on the junior side. The board meets monthly in Concord, which is the home of our bus station. Of the 53 routes we operate, Lafayette has 1, which is the number 6 route, which goes from the Orinda BART station to the Lafayette BART station and back and forth and back and forth. It takes about 4 buses to operate that during the course of a week. There are also some specific school bus routes that serve Lafayette by County Connection, and they would go to places like Campolindo, Miramonte, Agalanes, et cetera. Stella's nodding appreciatively because she's probably had her kids on some of them. And that is in addition to what the JPA that was funded by Measure J does in terms of school bus routes to other schools. So all the Lafayette buses happen to be clean diesel rather than electric. The County Connection has had some experience with electric buses. We were one of the first agencies in the state to try them out. They've been a little disappointing. They don't go up hills very well. They don't hold their charge very well. They're expensive to maintain. And we're just hoping that the rest of the state will just go yuck before we have to buy our next set. So if we go to the next slide, it talks a little bit about our finances. And just in summary, we're doing okay. We get most of our money, about a quarter of the state's portion of the sales tax is held up for transportation, and we get some of that. And so what the game really is with County Connection in the budget is to keep your TDA reserve as high as you can. Ours is about 47 million, which is pretty good. But if you look at the total expenditure, it's not nearly as much as the city has on reserve. But we don't go into each year wondering if we're going to go bankrupt. Each of the transit agencies has pretty heavy union representation among the workforce. In our case, we have 3 unions that represent most of our staff. They are the ATU, which represents drivers, the machinists, and the Teamsters, which represent supervisors. Starting about now, we're doing renegotiations with each of those agencies. It's been difficult for some other agencies. So if you recall, the VTA had a strike early this year that went on for several weeks, finally got resolved. I don't remember what their cost was, but it was probably not cheap. We don't know what this is going to mean for us. We've heard that both the machinists, which have been a very cooperative union up until now, has a new chief, and so he plans to take a more difficult position. The current head of the local ATU chapter says she wants to negotiate everything and anything. You can go out and look for things to negotiate, so who knows? So I may ask to come back to report on this to you at a future date, or may ask you to appoint a liaison that I can go speak to, and that person can come back and talk to the rest of you. So if you look at this thing right now, and this is a mix of our Spirit van, which is sort of our link service for paratransit vehicles, and our regular full bus size service. If you look at the full bus service, we only take in about 14 cents for every dollar we spend. So you sort of have to ask, if you're only getting 14 cents for every dollar spent, what's the effect of going to no fees? Well, it turns out, as I'll come to it, that's very positive for ridership. It may not be fiscally or feasible to get the tax revenue you need, but it has a positive effect to the extent we've tried it. So why don't we go back and look at the next slide. So this slide gives you a brief look at ridership for weekdays and weekends over the last several years. And like a lot of other agencies, when COVID was announced and the economy went into shutdown, our riders stayed home. A lot of them, most of them. And our revenue or ridership plunged by more than 70 to 90%. Since then, it has come back. And our weekend ridership is now slightly above where we used to be. And our weekday ridership is coming back more slowly, as is BART, for example, which is still down substantially more than we are. One of the things that we are finding is that the nature of the rides people take are different from what they used to be. They're taking shorter rides. They're not necessarily going to BART stations in all cases. They're going to other forms of employment, et cetera. And what I want to do now is talk about, while this has been going on, the staff and the board haven't just been sitting around. You may think that's really about all we've done, but it's not quite. I want to close with 3 examples of things we have done that advance the kind of service we provide. So since we had some extra seats as a result of this reduction in ridership, we tried some things. We tried the idea of a youth rides free program. Next slide. And we started that with a couple of places in 2024, and it worked well. Nothing, free really helps. It's amazing. Even if they're not paying much, free is even better. So there's a scan that's probably in the slide in front of you that you can go to, fill out your own survey if you want to give us some feedback or whatever, give it to a friend. And what we're trying to figure out is, so why did people not take the bus before? Why are they taking it now? And how does this really benefit us in the community? I think one way to look at what we do is, like BART, we're not going to get to the point where we take in more than we spend. So one of the ways you have to look at public transit is, how many cars can we get off how many trips can we get off out of individual cars so we get more people on the bus? And this has clearly been a way to do that. If you look at this year, and we look at how this thing is done in La Miranda, it's been pretty good. So this, in 2025, we started this in June, and we're going to continue it through sometime in August. But it's countywide now, so youth ridership has grown by about 200%, reaching a total of about just under 12,000 riders. In La Miranda, the results have been even more dramatic. Smaller numbers, but more dramatic. We had only 37 youth fares in 2024, and we've grown to about 892 in 2025. And what we've told the drivers to do this year is, don't worry about whether somebody looks like they're a youth or not. If they say they qualify as a youth pass, just let them get on. We're really trying to see what we can do to boost ridership. And so if you ask me, well, how many people do you think really qualify? I have no idea. I'll just tell you that now. The other thing is that in youth ridership, it's made up 15% of total ridership in the La Miranda area in June, compared to only about 6% system-wide. And that was probably before the youth fare pass, free youth pass went in system-wide. And this chart on the right sort of shows the popular stops along Route 6 in Orinda, Moraga, and Lafayette. And in Lafayette, it's sort of where you'd expect it to be. It's around the BART station and close to downtown. No surprise there. And total ridership in La Miranda grew from about 5,200 in June to about 5,900 in June of this year. So that's pretty decent growth. We can't really complain about that. And so I think we're gonna look for funding to do this again next year, because what we do is we refund. We had some money that we used to sort of, put money in to equal the fares we might have earned from this, so it's, the 14 cents. Which, why we bothered to do that, I don't know, but some board members think that's important. And so I think this is something that one we should continue to do, and one that may grow and hopefully spread and get more support. The second thing I want to go to is transit system priority. When I came here last time, I talked about the idea of letting buses move through traffic more quickly than other vehicles. And so we got some funding to try that, and I think of doing it in Concord and Walnut Creek at 66 intersections, and the total signal priority reduced bus signal delay by about 17% and improved overall travel times for buses by about 6%, which is not a lot unless you've been sitting on a bus for a long time. So, and one of the problems I remember from studying buses back in college was that in those days, people said, sure, you pay me, I'll consider riding. I won't ride it for free, but it's so much slower than what I could do otherwise that I don't want to just get on. And so this had both the performance and also had a slightly fewer number of late departures. Not that I think is really the critical feature here. And I don't even go in, yeah, fine, we use less fuel, we save a little bit of greenhouse gas emissions, who cares? And then the final one I want to talk about is the one-seat ride for link service. So it used to be that if you were a senior and you qualified for you qualified for a paratransit ride, and you wanted to go from Danville to your physician in Livermore, you had to get on a van, you had to go somewhere, you had to transfer to a van run by the Livermore Area Valley Transportation Group, and then ride that van to your destination and come back the same way, changing vans. So we concluded that didn't make any sense. Why don't we just book you through, give you one seat and take the whole ride? So we've been doing that now for several months. And there aren't many people who even qualify. So to say we've had a lot of people using it is not realistic, but I think the people who have used it have been very happy. And we made a meaningful improvement in their lives. So we turn now to SB 63. You've probably heard of the fiscal cliff, as I said before. Well, this is it. We hear about this every meeting. When we lost ridership, County Connection did something I thought was reasonable, which is we reduced service. I can't say that necessarily all of the transportation systems in the Bay Area have done the same. I'm not sure anyone has increased service, but not all of them have reduced service. And so their fiscal cliff gets bigger and bigger. So one idea that is bandied about right now is a multi-county sales tax that will benefit BART, Caltrans, Muni, AC Transit, et cetera. So we don't know enough yet what this legislation is going to look like when it's passed by the legislature and sent to the governor, who will probably sign it. But we'll be in touch with Naruf or you to sort of say once we know more about what it is. And I think what I'm hearing is that so far people are signing on to support it who know a little more than I do, which isn't much. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on was how do we spend any new revenue we get or we might get? So one of the things that this SB 63 does is what are called the small operators. That includes us. We're the biggest of the, quote, the small operators. We said, hold it. You know, you're not including any money for us in this bill. You're just giving it all to those already big operators who aren't very efficient with how they use it. And they've come back and they've given us sort of roughly $6 million. So if you look at our current budget of about $57 million, that's not trivial. And so we would probably use that to reinstate service that we cut before. And maybe if that is all used up, then there are things we could expand the free ride program. There are a number of other things we could do that you've seen some examples of this evening. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, questions?
Great, thank you. Thank you, Don. No, very good presentation. Good to get up to speed on what's going on. So just you mentioned that you highlighted the TSP program about the transit signals. That's happening in Concord, Walnut Creek. Is there any plans to extend that to Lafayette, La Miranda area?
Well, there would be once we get the funding.
But strictly a
We haven't modeled to see how much it would save here. I mean, I think if you go back to the transportation study, the only route that's affected is Route 6 coming down Moraga Road. So it's going to save something, but it's not going to be a great big deal.
All right. Yeah, no, that would make some sense. I don't know how beneficial it is to us or not. And second, I mean, I have to admit, the finances look fairly good, so it's kind of like that. That's good to see.
Right.
Given all the doom and gloom we see about the different transit agencies. Are there any plans right now? I mean, we think about how we're going to get cars off roads and, or whatever. Are there any plans to change La Miranda busing as far as like adding routes, removing routes, or are we a pretty steady state and we should expect it to be steady state for the foreseeable future?
Well, I think that with the current sources of revenue, we are pretty steady state. You'll recall that some years ago, the chamber asked the city to try and run a shuttle between here and Walnut Creek. We did, it failed, big time. And we canceled it. It was one of the first things to go and to cut. So right now, there's been no discussion of reinstating any routes. I think what's more likely is that you'd see free rides for more people or a higher percentage of the people who are on different routes.
Great, thank you.
Mayor Candell, any questions?
I do, thank you. Thank you so much, Don, for your report. I don't know if you heard about our last SWAT meeting where Candace Anderson, Supervisor Anderson, came in heavy in support of extending that free ride program until the start of the year. And even to the point of, I'm willing to find the money and pay for it. And so for next year, it's not going to happen this year, but for next year, make sure to bring Candace on. She is a huge fan and really, really, really wants to support that free ride for youth program. So definitely just let you know. And then
And
also,
I don't know of any board member who opposes that program. I mean,
not at all.
more people on the bus and.
Yes, our full SWAT panel said unanimously yes to support this in the future. As soon as we can possibly get it again, let's do it again. And then also at the mayor's meeting last week, they talked about SB 63, and we found out that I guess it was like last maybe Wednesday that San Mateo County opted in, and so that's a really big help for all of us. That is so Santa Clara hasn't quite weighed in yet, but it's the 11th today. But San Mateo County did opt in, so that's great news.
Good.
Thanks.
Okay, other questions?
It's always great to see you, Don. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Just a couple of questions on the free ride. From my notes, there's like an implicit cost though, is 14 cents a ride? Did I get that right?
Well, it's not, it's roughly 14% of our current revenue comes from fares. So the cost isn't 14 cents per ride per se. It's just that, the people who pay fares are generating about 14% of the revenue.
Right. And so there's an attempt to recapture through other funds, like the foregone revenue from those free riders, I take it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's sort of a bookkeeping gimmick because you could probably just put that money in the system anyway, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. But if this makes some board members happy and more willing to support it, fine.
Vice Mayor, I want to help with Jim's question.
Yep, go ahead.
At the SWAT meeting, they said it was $1 per ride that was getting reimbursed for those free youth passes. Was $1 per ride.
Thank you.
Huh?
And then the other was on SB 63, it's a sales tax increase. So that's a 2/3 vote?
Well, so this is interesting. So if the agencies put it on, it's a 2/3 vote. If they get a citizen committee to raise the signatures, it's a 50% vote. So the current plan, I think, is to get the Bay Area Council to sponsor it. And since they're a private group and a citizens committee, that would only be a 50% vote.
Got it.
So that is the current plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Witherspoon, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you so much, Don, for this really great presentation. It's really exciting to hear about the success of the summer zero fare rides for youth. Is there any discussion of extending that to the school routes through the year?
Well, not yet, because I think the school routes through the year are too much of our total revenue, too much of our total usage, including the, and then what would you do if you had a county connection route was free, but the school bus authority route was not? So,
Fair. Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, is there any public comment?
Vice Mayor Anduri, I have no public comments on this topic at this time.
Okay, Don, thank you very much.
again, I just want to say that I was one of the, I don't know why he contacted me, probably got bad advice, but Shane Reisman was one of the first people I was one of the first people he contacted. He took me on a ride through parts of Moraga, et cetera. We visited the Moraga Historical Society. I'm very impressed with both his project and the amount of effort he's put into it. And I would encourage the council to support it when it comes to the next budget cycle. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to the consent calendar, which is longer than usual. Would any council member like to remove an item from the consent calendar? Okay, hearing
No,
Mayor
hi.
Kendall.
Yeah, so I'd like to remove item J.
Okay, item J. Any other council member like to remove an item? Okay, seeing none, would any member of the public like to ask us to consider removing an item?
I had a request from Ron Tam to remove item 12J as well. I just wanted you to know.
Okay, all right. Okay, so do I have a motion? And well, then we will hear item J later in the agenda. Let's mark that down. And do I have a motion for adoption of the remainder of the consent calendar?
So moved.
With,
Second.
second.
All right, it's moved and seconded. Mayor Kendall,
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick,
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's unanimous in favor of the remainder of the consent calendar. We are now, and let me, there are so many things that were on the consent calendar, and a lot of people did a lot of work for a number of these items, so thank you for all the work that's represented by these items. We're now on to item 14A, Mike Moran, Engineering Public Works Director, on outdoor dining.
Well, good evening, Council. This item is basically a proposal to extend our outdoor dining extensions for restaurants downtown. As some of this council certainly knows, and probably all of it, that during COVID, there was a policy put in place, a temporary policy to allow more sidewalk seating and also sidewalks and seating into the roadway of downtown Lafayette in an effort to try and have some vitalization downtown during COVID when indoor seating was restricted. So I think what we learned was that it did add to the vibrancy of downtown. That program has been extended a couple of times, and there's a proposal here tonight to extend it again for a 3-year term, but with some restrictions and some formalization is what staff is recommending. When we put this into place, we didn't follow a standard long-term. This has an encroachment permit to be installed with our construction inspectors watching it, and it has an encroachment agreement which requires a certain amount of insurance and indemnification for the city. We do have some of those in place. For example, Sideboard, where they've extended some seating into the public right-of-way. So there's a formal program there. If this were to be extended again, staff is recommending that we formalize it. We make sure that what they install is, we would call it more semi-permanent, if you will, certainly ADA compliant, and just for a longer period of time, which would also give the restaurant operators some insurance that if they make the investment to add this more formalized seating into the right-of-way, that they could get a return on their investment over some time. So the proposal is for a few years. I know Councilmember McCormick and I have actually visited with a couple on Lafayette Circle, a couple restaurants that have been taking advantage of this and kind of had this discussion and planted the seed that it was going to be discussed tonight at the council meeting. We're not bringing a resolution tonight to formally take this on, but staff does want to get this feedback so that we can be back in touch with the restaurant operators to see if they're even interested in pursuing this and extending this and making the investment with some assurances that it would be extended for a few years should they make that investment. So happy to take any questions, and I know Vice Mayor Anduri and Councilmember McCormick have some information on this as well.
Okay, so we'll take questions, and then we'll take public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the council for discussion. So questions.
I would just do full disclosure again. So Mike and I did go to visit each of the two restaurants that are currently supporting or had outdoor dining. And just to, so the owners were able to speak, both owners, they really understood the situation, appreciated the council considering it. I think they were also wondering what the current status was. And so I think they are eager to, just conceptually eager to work with the city. Just put that out there.
Okay, and the other thing I might mention is that the proposal is for 3 years because we were looking for a number that would allow the property owners to amortize their investment if they were going to bring it up to code, while at the same time giving us enough time to decide what we wanted to do with our downtown streets through the multimodal mobility study before we consider doing any other more formal outdoor dining. So that was not a question. Does anyone else have a question before we? Stella.
Yeah, so the two restaurants on Lafayette Circle you mentioned, but you also mentioned Sideboard. Are they part of this?
They're not part of this. As an example of where the city does have a formal encroachment agreement in place, and literally it is recorded with the county on their title of the property, and it shows, you have a footprint into the public right-of-way. And the city is indemnified with that agreement. So that's an example of a long-term agreement, full-term agreement, not something that was phased in during COVID to try and stimulate business that may have otherwise just not been able to succeed.
And so you're speaking of that kind of porch area.
Right.
That's an example. That is it. Okay.
So we've done more formal agreements in the past. We didn't for this. And we had also a strip on, obviously, Mount Dable Boulevard where we extended the sidewalk and they took more sidewalk seating. They've since removed that. But, we had other participants take us up on this starting in 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Public comment.
Vice Mayor Anduri is taking public comments on item 14A. I have no speakers in the community hall, and I have no hands raised in our virtual audience.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the council then, and what we need to discuss is whether the council wants to move forward, not make a final decision, but move forward with this 3-year extension. And then the key sentence here is on the bottom of the first page of the staff report. Staff's not asking the council to formally extend the outdoor seating policy at this meeting, but if the council is willing to extend the policy, and staff receives input from restaurant operators that they're willing to participate, then staff will bring a resolution at a future meeting. So that's the plan. And any comment or questions about the plan?
I've got a comment, which is I'm really glad you're pursuing this. I have to say personally, I take my 89-year-old stepmom to one of the restaurants on Lafayette Circle, which meets the criteria here. It is her favorite place because indoors is too loud for her. So I think it's great having an amenity that's out in the open where people can enjoy this ambiance in our community. We have the best weather on the planet, literally. So it's really great that we're taking advantage of this, and I'm glad we made lemonade out of lemons back in COVID. So I'm in favor of pursuing it and see what the restaurant owners think.
Okay, I don't think we need we don't need a formal.
Great.
So I guess what I'm asking is there agreement that we pursue this approach?
Absolutely. I think the restaurant owners are interested in working with us. They didn't say a definite yes or no, but I mean, they're interested in kind of moving forward and getting something more stable in place. I think it's good for other places that don't have, the dining to be able to make sure that there's a, there's a permit, it's all in the up and up. So I think it's a good for Lafayette.
One nuance I want to make sure we're on board with. In my view, if one restaurant owner wants to proceed and the other doesn't, we would still proceed with the restaurant owner who wants to go forward. Everyone all right
Yeah,
with
that'd be my
that?
understanding.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you need any further direction?
No, that'll do it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're on to item 14B, City Manager Srivatsa, Regional Advocacy Agreement with Townsend Public Affairs.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On May 25th, the three councils of La Miranda held a joint discussion to explore the potential benefits of working together on state and federal policies and advocacy, and gave direction to the city managers to work with Townsend Public Affairs to craft such an agreement. A proposed La Miranda Legislative Coalition will provide a unified platform for all three of us to jointly advocate for state and federal policies and to apply for state and federal grants. There is an agreement before you between the City of Lafayette, the Town of Moraga, the City of Orinda, and Townsend Public Affairs. The City of Orinda's council has approved the agreement. Moraga will do so later in the month. The cost of regional services is about $18,000 annually or $1,500 a month. Our current contract with Townsend is about $4,500 a month. Once we develop a regional legislative platform, I am sure there will be overlapping issues, and that would be the time to renegotiate the Lafayette contract so that we don't pay for the same services in both the local and regional agreements. The city attorney's office has reviewed it and has asked for the standard insurance and indemnification provisions, which will be added should council approve the agreement this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll take questions from the council, then we'll go to public comment and then bring it back for discussion. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Mayor Kendall.
Yeah, real quick. So I know at the mayor's meeting, or the meeting that we had between all the three cities, one of the things that we talked about was how are we going to enable the people, our representatives, go to this joint sessions? How do we enable them to work quickly? So I know that's not part of this agreement, but if we get this agreement, hopefully that will come back to us at a later time and we can discuss that and how Lafayette, enables these the representatives to move quickly.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor, indeed. The process itself is not part of the agreement because it's subject to change and we didn't want to bring it back time and again, the agreement in total. We do have a process. The purpose of this is for the three cities to act swiftly, especially when there's an urgent item to be addressed, as long as that item is consistent with the regional platform. But we will bring that process back to the City Council for approval.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, public comment.
Vice Mayor Anduri is taking comments on item 14B, and I have no speaker slips for persons in the community hall and no virtual hands raised.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the council. There were no questions. Are we ready for a motion to authorize the city manager to finalize and execute the regional advocacy agreement? Councilmember Cervantes.
With your indulgence of a comment,
please.
I just want to put out there that I think there's great value in having this sort of broader Lumber-Inda arrangement with our lobbyist. I don't want to steal thunder from a later item, but we're in a session today with the Orinda city manager on a key piece of legislation, it really helped to have ourselves and a neighbor involved in the conversation. So it's a gnarly world in Sacramento, and I think it really helps us to have a lobbyist on our side. And I think our voices do get amplified when we work together with our neighbors in Orinda and Moraga. So I would support this, and unless there's another comment, I'll move it.
The only comment I would just leverage, if I could, that I think the three cities should work together even more. I think this is a good first step. This is probably the most obvious one to do because we have so many things in common, but fire safety and some other things that I think we should be working on together, that I think this is a good step, and it's a good proof point that it can work. And I share the mayor's concern a little bit that we don't want to slow things down, but I think this is great value, and I look forward to seeing more of it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mayor Kendall.
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick.
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's unanimous in favor. The motion carries. We are now on to item 16, items removed from the consent calendar. We are considering what was item 12J, the request to extend the Oak Ridge parking lot temporary closure for all ages recreation downtown. And who is going to represent staff on this issue?
Vice Mayor Andrew, I believe I should recuse myself from this because I'm on the board of AARD, All Ages Recreation District. So
Did you have an opportunity to consult with the city
I
attorney?
did not.
Okay, well, I think it's probably the best
Yeah, exactly.
course.
So at this point, I should just excuse myself while you
Okay,
handle
we'll
this?
call you back in.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll be the point person on this. I don't see Jonathan on.
Okay, well, let me just, while you're bringing Jonathan in, we've all read the staff report, so we don't need to hear anything. So are there any questions from the council on the staff report? We'll then take public comment and bring it back to the council. So any
I do
questions?
want to have, I do want to say, I pulled this because I met with the people at the parklet and then went over to the Chateau Lafayette and met with a group of people at the Chateau. I'm not going to make any comments. I'm going to wait for them to make their public comments. But if they missed out on anything from what I learned during those meetings, I'll bring it up after the public comments.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to mention, we do have Grace Dixon in the audience who's head of AARD. If there's questions, we want to ask her directly or just have her do it during public comment.
Well, we would need to ask staff, so yeah, we'll do that during public comment. Okay, but are there any questions for Jonathan or for staff on this item? No, so we'll go right to public comment.
I have a Ron Tam who would like to speak. If you would come to the podium, please. You'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, welcome.
Oh, thank you. My name is Ron Tam, and I'm a resident of the Chateau Lafayette. And I'm here in regards to the noise at the parking lot at 2nd Street and Golden Gate Way. And I wanted to read this email that gives you my opinion regarding this situation. And it reads, "To whom this may concern, I'd greatly appreciate it very much if the city council members would have this event that is currently located at 2nd Street and Golden Gate Way moved to a different location. At times when this event occurs, which is on a Sunday, I can hear the voices of people, especially when the amplifier is turned on, as well as when they do their line dancing. It can be quite disturbing at times. We live in a very noise polluted society, as it is Monday through Friday, and it's very nice to have some peace and quietness from time to time. I'm a tenant at the Chateau Lafayette, and unfortunately, the noise from this event can bleed over to our complex, especially when the amplifier is turned on, which can really amplify the noise of this event. There are also a few other tenants who also reside at this complex and like to sit outside on a Sunday afternoon and have a peaceful conversation. Unfortunately, this is not possible when the noise from this event bleeds over to our complex. Again, I'd like for the city council members to move this event to a different location so then tenants like myself can enjoy the peace and quietness of our Chateau Lafayette senior community. I hope that you will consider our feedback regarding this situation. Thank you very much, Ron Tam.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Tam? No, thank you very much.
Very good, thank you.
Is
No
there any-
additional speakers at this time, Vice Mayor Anduri.
Okay, then we'll. Okay, why don't we do that just in case there are questions? And you can give the city clerk your speaker slip when you're finished. Okay, do you want to make a statement or just take questions?
I think you all know my statements.
Okay, are there any questions?
Other questions? I could.
Yeah.
Great. So I know there was some complaints. I guess we saw an email to the city council several weeks ago about the noise. And has anything changed from the time that email was sent originally and what happens now?
I want to be a good neighbor. I'm sorry, I'm going to get emotional because that's just me. We have tried for 13 years to make Lafayette embrace all ages and abilities. We tried to do it in a public park. They said no. We tried to do it at the library. The library said no. So we have a blacktop. We have a safe blacktop with some shade. It's not ideal, but it's flat. We've got 6 residents at least of Chateau Lafayette that join us at least 3 times during that Sunday to talk, to play chess, to play cards. Some of them even dance with us. I want to provide a service to Lafayette, and I'm raising money for the city of Lafayette. It could not be harder to do this. I am all ears. My board wants to be very good neighbors. Honestly, we just want to hear your ideas on how to continue to make this happen.
Can I follow up? My understanding is that there has been a change, or you are proposing a change, a concession to the neighbors in that there will be no dance or music during the extended period. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding?
I have agreed. I haven't run this by the board because I'm sure they want to be good neighbors too. If they no longer want us to provide the 1-hour dance lessons a couple times a month, then they'll take them down to 0. If they no longer want the people to be able to play bongos or congas, we'll take those away too. We were just trying to provide a no-cost fun space.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I do. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Grace, thank you. I know you and I, in a full discussion, I met with Grace for a lot, and we really tried to work on some concessions, to try to get, agreement from both sides that it can continue into October. And like Grace said, the noise, the real egregious noise sources, those will be gone. Which is the bongos and then the PA system and the music. And so that's made sense. And then, when sitting over with the kids, at Chateau, you do hear people talk and you do hear kids, it's not yelling, but excited, happy, excited. And so thank you. I just want to say thank you, Grace, for working on these concessions that are real and, hopefully should have some impact on the Chateau. So thank you for working so hard on these to get to this particular item that we have in front of us today. That's it for now.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other public comment?
No additional public comment at this time.
Okay, I would just note for the record that the council did receive, and all council members have read the public comments received today from Trevor Perkins and Lori Carson, also Chateau residents. So just make sure we are aware of those. Okay, council discussion. Mayor Kendall, did you want to add at this point?
Yeah, so like I said, their common area is literally the fence, it's right on the backside of the fence. And so it was, the impression that I got was that they were very surprised. They really hadn't been notified that we'd even had this AARD thing planned. And sometimes, we try to do our best, but probably didn't help them manage expectations of what we were going to try to do this summer. And so when I met with them, they were totally fine with letting it continue these next 3 weeks, but then literally saw the agenda on Tuesday and saw that it was going to extend into October and went, wow, okay, I really need to go back and talk to the residents, saying I didn't know that we were going to get asked for this big extension. And that is when Grace and I really tried to work through the problem, even trying to find other sites. Finding another site this late in the game to keep the continuity of what has been created there is impossible. We may be able to work on something like that for next year, but we can't implement it. So the only place it can be is here for this extended time. In addition, one of the concessions we talked about was shortening the number of hours, and the problem is it's that Grace is going to be pretty much on her own, and setup and takedown of this event is considerable. And so, reducing the number of hours, it's just not worth it to do that. One of the big things that really surprised me about this, it's very low impact. These are not high energy games or anything like this. These are most of the things are sitting down and doing tasks. And she said the kids that come there, they spend about 2 or more hours there. And I'm like, I can't get a kid to do anything for 2 hours, right? And so for some reason, this place has created some magic for a lot of the kids in our community, especially downtown. And so that was something I want you guys to consider in terms of an actual success metric that Grace and her daughter were able to pull out that was actually very surprising in a good way. And so I'm saying, let's, if we end it right now, it is it's, quote unquote early, but school is starting. And so that can be a consideration. But do understand these are on Sundays, and the kids that come, they actually stay, and a lot of them are being brought by their dads, not by their moms. And so that was another interesting metric of the success of this particular parklet.
Okay, thank you. All right, comments?
Yes.
Discussion from the council.
Comments. So I did stop by there yesterday afternoon, since it was Sunday, and I wanted to kind of see it in action. It was a very warm day. There were still people there playing. It was quiet. There was music, but it was very, very low. And I think it's a tremendous addition to the character and the tapestry of Lafayette. I appreciate what some of the residents of Chateau are saying. I think we all want to have be pleasant and have a quiet time in our area. However, Chateau Lafayette, it's in the downtown neighborhood. We've got the Park Theater is going to be opening up in a year. There's going to be activity there. We actually are going to be pushing as a council, and we've talked about a more vibrant downtown, which will necessitate a little more noise, a little more activity. The park in this space, which I actually think, I know it's blacktop, but they've done a good job making it charming as that tapestry. And I think AARD has made a good faith effort, this is what it seems to me, to kind of mitigate the sound. And I am favorably inclined to let it continue for the year, with the intention then of potentially revisiting and seeing how we can improve it next year.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Anduri. So my take is, I support this concept. I support what the all ages recreation is trying to do with this downtown effort. Anytime we can get kids off screens for hours on end, to me is a win for a community. And to have something that's vibrant in the downtown that attracts people in, where we can celebrate being together, to me is something that I think I'd like to see, frankly, more of. I appreciate the effort to sort of mitigate some of the noise issues. It's very thoughtful, very considerate. I really appreciate the mayor for her follow-up on all this. But I have to note, I live on the back end of Spring Hill Valley, and next to us is like Briones. But I can hear my neighbors when they're having a big pool party, and it's every weekend, and there's like noise there too. So I kind of think that's something that we live with, because we're in a community of 25,000 people. And I guess if it's a joyful noise, I'm good with that. And that's what this sounds like to me. So I'd support this as well.
Okay, Mayor Candel, do you have any other comments?
No, and I absolutely empathize with the residents of the Chateau. I want to say I hear you. We understand where your issues are. I really hope that the concessions that the ARD will make this a far better and more tolerable for both sides, and just as successful. And so so while I do understand the issues that are facing, the continuity of this particular program really should extend, a little bit longer. And as the weather changes, it will shut down, right? And daylight savings comes, it will shut down. And so this is October 26th is probably the last date that this may run, because of all those considerations. And I hope that you can understand that we really want to try this. We also want to think about another site possibly for next year. And we will definitely be open for considering that, especially because the Park Theater is going to open and we are going to need that parking at some point. And so this concept will have to live somewhere else if it is going to extend. I don't think the Park Theater is going to need the parking lot next summer, but the one after that for sure. And so we are going to have to be modifying this program at some point. But I do say that I actually am in favor of extending it, as with the concessions that have been made.
Okay, I'm in favor of or support the other council comments. So do we have a motion for moving forward with the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Candel?
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick?
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's 4-0 in favor with one recusal. Okay, thank you. And we'll wait for Councilmember Witherspoon to return. On to item 17A, Council Commission reports. Would any council member like to report on activities since the last council meeting or ask for an item to be on the next agenda? Mayor Candel? Nope.
Did anybody attend the mayor's conference?
Yes, we did. Both Stella and I were there. I wasn't sure if I wanted to say anything about it. The big thing was the SB 63 in San Mateo County coming in. That was a highlight of the evening, at least for me. Congressman DeSaulnier was there and fabulous and impactful in the things that he's doing in Washington, D.C. And also with gun safety, some of the things that he's been working on long term, he did a nice presentation on those too. But the most important ones is that he is going to be holding a town hall coming up soon, and so watch for your calendars. It's going to be here locally in our area, and so definitely watch your announcements for that. In addition, I have to say I did ask him. He did open it to Q&A, which I didn't know if he was going to, and asked him about redistricting possibilities in California, and he actually came out very strongly in support. And it was a leadership position for him to take. I didn't know if he was going to be willing to take it that night, but in front of all the mayors of Contra Costa County, he absolutely supports the position that the governor is taking right now on redistricting in California.
Okay, thank you.
Great. A couple things I'd like just to report out. As with many of us, we did attend National Night Out at the community center last week. Phenomenal. Somebody else wants to talk about details, but phenomenal presence by our police safety, and I look forward to many more community members coming out next year. I also want to, last week or the week before, I attended a library event here in this room. I just want to do a shout out. It was a tremendous one, Prohibition in La Miranda, where we heard about all the bars and the drinking, and how Lafayette in particular was kind of a no vote on some of the early drinking, but went along with it. And it was quite a fascinating look into Lafayette's early history. And finally, as part of the work on the Recycle Smart board, I just want to just a little follow-up saying that the Recycle Smart board, made up of Lafayette, Orinda, Moraga, Danville, Walnut Creek, and parts of Contra Costa County, we have approved a new collection agreement for starting in 2027. With Public Services, again, we'll be doing the collection, the pickup of our garbage, organics, and recycling. There are some improvements. We will all get an extra organics can at no charge upon request, an extra recycle can at no charge upon request. Those two things will probably do more to increase our diversion rate than anything we can possibly do. So that'll be exciting starting in 2027. There is a rate increase that will go along with that. Just FYI, everything is more expensive, including labor and the trucks. We have been amassing a bit of a reserve fund, all the cities have, to help smooth out the rates, so it will be hopefully not too bad, and the new rate structure will not start until 2027. But there's a very thoughtful process, very open process, transparent process. There's lots of history of garbage services being a little problematic, and this one was so above board. It was a pleasure to work on.
How long is the new contract?
It is, I believe it's 10 years. Or it's in that ballpark if it's not 10 years. It's at that scale, so we don't have to go through it again for a while.
Okay, thank you.
So I've got two items. The first is, since I participated in the Emergency Preparedness Commission meetings, they continue to power through. I think a couple of highlights for me from the last session is that the Firewise effort continues. There's a lot of momentum behind that. There's a few key individuals in the community. Stephanie Bontops is one of them, where we've got a lot of activity happening there, and I think we're in Contra Costa County, served by Confire, the city with the greatest number of Firewise districts. It's rather striking.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Mayor Candell can hear us. Can we start now? CJ? Because she can hear us. Okay, we're up and running.
Okay, the council's back in session. We're on item 17B. Mayor Candell updating council assignments for 2025. Mayor Candell, did you want to add anything to what we have in front of us?
Just to say that it was really a great, looking at the assignments that the council member Dawson had, Stella Witherspoon was able to fill in very nicely on all of those assignments.
Okay, great. Are there any questions? Any good questions? And then we'll see if there's any public comment, then bring up.
Well, maybe it should be mentioned now. So Councilmember McCormick and I had a conversation about their swap.
Oh, another one. I saw you swapped on MCE.
Yes.
Yep, got.
And so we discussed it and agreed to swap where I would move to transportation circulation and Councilmember McCormick would take emergency preparedness.
Sounds great.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we
Yes.
will consider that the proposal. But comment on this item.
Vice Mayor Anduri, there were no public comments on this item.
Okay, and I assume there's no further discussion. So do we have a motion for approval of the updated council assignments for 2025, taking into account the swap that just occurred?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mayor Candell,
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick,
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. It's unanimous, 5-0. The assignments are approved. Moving on to C, resolution appointing one member to the Transportation Circulation Commission. Councilmember McCormick, are you going to take this one, or Mayor?
Or the mayor can take it if you want to. Oh, no.
Go ahead, you're in the room.
Great. All right, no problem. Yeah. So we have one opening on the the Transportation and Circulation Commission, thanks to the resignation of Council Member Witherspoon. And so the mayor and I would recommend that Mario DePrisco take the place and be on Transportation and Circulation Commission.
Okay. Are there any questions? Is there any public comment?
Vice Mayor Anduri, no public comment.
Okay, can we have a motion?
I move.
Okay, is a motion to adopt resolution 2025-43, appointing Mario DePrisco to the Transportation Circulation Commission. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mayor Candell,
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick,
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's 5-0 in favor. Mario DePrisco is appointed. We're on to item 17E, our legislation committee. Who is going to lead this discussion?
Eunice D. Vice Mayor.
Okay.
17D.
Oh, sorry, I skipped D. Yes, okay. Review the appointment process followed at the July 15th meeting. You have in your materials the procedure. We received one public comment. Are there any questions from council members before we go to public comment and then bring it back for discussion? Okay, no questions. Is there any public comment? Again, we do have this very well done email from Jennifer Paul, which we've all read.
Vice Mayor Anduri is taking comments on item 17D, and I have no speakers slips for persons in the community hall, and I have no virtual hands raised.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the council and consider. So if you don't mind, I'll lead off and just, if we are to approve a procedure now, I mean, the understanding would be that if we were to have another opening at some point, the council would look at this again. I mean, this would be advisory to a future council, and it would show what we thought worked, but the future council would not have to accept it. So there'd be some minor revisions to the introductory paragraph to indicate that it's not just for this one situation in the past. Looking at the comments from Jennifer Paul, I think the first three comments can be met if we, make one change. And that is that rather than council members ask the questions, which does open it up to some variation among the council members as to how long they take to ask the question, how long they wait to figure out that the prior question has been answered. We could solve that and also the issue of how long the person has to look at it. If we hand the questions to the candidate and tell the candidate, you have 25 minutes to read the questions, answer each of the questions, and give a closing statement. You can allocate the time however you want. And so then the candidate, go through, the candidate knows exactly where the candidate is on the numbers of the questions. We could put in a physical requirement that a clock shall be placed in the interview room so that it's clearly visible to the applicant, so that there's no question about when somebody's being advised as to how much time that they have. So that would be my suggestion for solving that particular, or this set of problems. Any thoughts on that?
Well, my only thought is, I think the problem, I just don't know if that would make for the public. We had good public attendance at this one. I guess the other one too. And I think if I was doing that, I might say, oh, for number one, blah, blah, blah. For number two, blah, blah, blah. I think there is a cadence about having the question read and then responded to that would be lost. I guess that's the only thing I would think of that could be lost if somebody just has a piece of paper and reading it. I guess I did not. I guess that feels like I actually thought, well, I guess I would think I would actually go to defer to council member Witherspoon, but I actually thought the process was pretty good. And the variations between the questions was minor and was kind of resolved after the first speaker. So I actually thought, I didn't think it was dramatically inconsistent. I think we can I think the one thing about, do they get time ahead of time to read it? Maybe we just don't do that. I mean, I think there might be ways to kind of make it less, less variation, but I just kind of like the reading the question and then hearing the response and reading the question, hearing the response. So I'd hate to lose that. Be my only comment on that.
Okay. Well, the candidate could be asked to read the question so that the public knows what they're.
I just don't know. But yeah, no, like that's certainly possible too.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I have one.
Okay.
I can't see you guys again. For some reason, the video is not working. But I think maybe, when you get when somebody runs for the campaign, runs for the election, they have to get, was it 3 or 5 recommendations from people, written recommendations from people to run. We might want to institute something similar, maybe not 5, maybe not as onerous as what we do for an actual election, but get get them to have to go talk to 3 people that are going to write them something, put down an ink, I support them as this an account and as a candidate. And I'm saying that in order to make people have a little skin in the game before they even walk in the room. It's not a lot. It's very small, but you might it might make people shy away that aren't really very serious about the process.
So to make sure I understand, your suggestion is that before someone can be considered to be an applicant, they would need to submit 3 recommendations or 3 endorsements.
Yes.
From the public.
Yeah.
Is this equivalent to, or just a clarification, like obviously when we do our nomination forms, the official ones, we have to get 20 signatures.
That's a lot,
like that?
but something like that, but much less onerous, right? Something, that Amy, like Stella and it would be easy. 3 people would say, of course, yes, you are qualified, you should run. It just it might help us steer away from frivolous candidates, shall I say. It's a thought.
Okay.
It's just a thought.
I'm sorry, would they have to be Lafayette citizens to do it, or could they be anybody?
I think they can be, no, they have to be Lafayette citizens for the real nominations, right? For an election.
No, I meant the people who are doing this endorsement.
I'm trying to model it more like a real election, right? That there's a little skin in the game before you can even start. And so that was and it's not it's a very small threshold. But
okay, so you're looking for a signature, not a letter or email.
Yeah, no, just a signature.
Okay.
That would be okay too. But that's saying I do support blank, blank, blank or whatever. So yeah.
Okay,
it's a thought. We don't have to do that. We can don't include this and just leave it as notes for the next councils to consider.
Okay, so we have 2 issues raised now. One is this initial issue of who gets to be an applicant, who gets to be interviewed, and the suggestion from Mayor Candela is that we require some sort of endorsement, or it's similar to what people sign up on the application, just putting their names down. And what are people's thoughts on that? Then the second issue is actually what happens in the room when they're there. We'll come back to that.
Right. They're separate issues. Yeah.
Thoughts on?
I will say that's the way that the chamber board of directors does it. You have to have you put you sign any, if you have 5 members of the members of the chamber have to endorse a potential board candidate. I mean, that's kind of, I guess that is similar to that. It feels like most of the candidates had like a professional references that would probably count as that, I guess, right now, because you do list out 3 references on the application sheet. But
right. Right now, the application, I'm asking the city clerk the question, the application form asks for 3 references. They don't need to be Lafayette residents, and we don't need to hear from them as to whether they're actually consented to be a reference.
You are correct. If you would like the application to be modified to reflect more of an actual nomination document that electeds circulate, we could do that and ask for 3 or 5 persons to sign that say they endorse this candidate. I mean, the application could be easily modified if that's something the council would like to see.
I'm okay with not including that today, but just to kind of keep in mind for, the next round that comes.
Yeah, I mean, what we can look at is this as what happens in the room, and if we get a vacancy, which we hope, well, I personally hope we will not in the foreseeable future, then we can consider this as part of the process, because we set the process for applications so we could address this particular point at that time. Okay, so coming back to what happens in the room, I'm not sensing a lot of support for my idea that we hand them the questions and they are on their own to answer them. But if that's the case, do you see the equal question review time, these concerns that are raised as a problem? The question identification we can solve by just
We said, right.
stating the number of the question when you answer it. So that one's easily solved.
Right. So the only concern about number 2, just to be kind of clear, was that somebody finished early, and that's the only, that is the question, right? If somebody finishes early, can they have longer closing remarks? And I would be happy with that.
Me too.
If you want to, if you think you can blow through the questions at 2 minutes each instead of 3 minutes each, and you want to have 10 minutes for an extended opinion, it's great.
Yeah,
Agree.
in effect, somebody could do that. I can't remember exactly how it happened in the meeting, but the last question, is there anything else you want to
I know,
talk about?
that is almost like
basically,
you're open-ended.
and somebody can just take off on that.
That basically is the
Maybe
same
we
as-
should tell them how much time they have left and say, hey, you can take this for closing statements or not.
Yeah.
Okay, it's true that there was an element of time management with some candidates that there wasn't with others. At least I recall I had question number 6, and I used that, I think, with just about all candidates, maybe not, to remind them how much time was left for the remaining questions. Do we want to institutionalize, at every other question, letting somebody know how much time is remaining?
I know. I personally like, I think I mentioned this last time too. I kind of like the fact letting people just kind of manage their own time. I just think when you glean information from that, to not remind them.
So again.
But
the
have a
concern is-
clock, but have the clock.
We have the clock.
That would be
we
good.
have the clock.
Okay, so we make sure there's a clock.
Yeah.
And we,
We could do a 10-minute warning. I
Warn
mean, you
them
could do
in
something like that, no matter where you are, a 10-minute warning
Okay.
or something. I don't know.
all right.
I mean,
so-
I would say, yes, the clock is a good one, and I have to say, I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
I did not look above, I believe, the mayor's head to see that there was a clock displayed there.
Yeah.
So mentioning it to the candidate, maybe.
Actually, I think a clearer clock might be kind of useful, yeah.
I'd agree with that, draw everyone's attention to that, because I think with all that going on, I mean, it's easy to overlook that. Where you know it, you're minute 18 and you're only on question 5.
I'll say also, just for the question review time, there were a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And I personally didn't think I needed to review. I think that just answering the
Yeah.
council member when they asked the question was sufficient. I think maybe telling people there are 42 questions, or I know there weren't, but, or maybe even just, I guess, giving the sheet, but I didn't feel particularly helped necessarily by having a minute to read through it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information.
Would it be helpful if we told candidates you have up to 3 minutes to review the questions, and then they can use as much time as they want?
Personally, I don't think.
Again, I'm with her. I don't know if I don't think there's much gained by it, actually.
You prefer not giving them any time, just hand them?
No, I just think when I did, like, you just start asking questions.
That's what I mean, you hand
Yeah.
the question
And just go.
and just go.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's nice to have the paper, I think, because, if you lose track, you can glance.
You can
and
see
say,
that there's
okay,
10 or
that-
12.
Yeah,
but,
that's what I'm.
But the studying bit is like, how long do you study? And then if somebody's really trying to formulate, I mean, because we really want to hear what they have to say versus.
Exactly.
Okay, is there a consensus on that? No time. No time allowed, okay. Okay, so what I would propose here, if everyone's okay, is that the mayor and vice mayor revise this and put it on the consent calendar for the September 26th meeting. Is that all right? And I don't think we need a formal motion for that, do we?
And maybe I think the city clerk is suggesting it take the form of a resolution, and you can attach the policy to the resolution.
Okay, when it comes back on.
When it comes back.
So
As
it's
a-
easier to find a resolution that I can keep in the records, city records, to go back to.
Okay, so Mayor Kendall and I will revise these procedures, give it to you to prepare the resolution, and, okay. All right, any objection to moving forward on that way? I see none, so we will proceed. All right, now we are on item 17E, Who is going to lead us through this?
So I can start off, and I'll look to Mayor Kendall to correct me as I move along. We've got three bills that the Legislation Committee reviewed at its last meeting in July 23rd. SB 79 by Senator Weiner, related to housing development or transit-oriented development. SB 707, Senator Durazo regarding open meetings, and SB 750 by Senator Cortese, which is a housing finance mechanism. And we have recommendations for each of those: opposing SB 79, opposed unless amended for SB 707, and for 750, it was supporting in concept. And there's a good write-up by Townsend in this. I don't think I need to go through that. But I do want to talk about SB 79 after we go through that. I don't know if there's questions with respect to the three bills in big picture. I'm happy to talk through that, but I will talk at greater length about SB 79 after that.
Okay, well, can I suggest that we get the oral update on SB 79 before we?
Sure.
We'll consider this item E together. I think it'd be helpful to get that.
Okay. So SB 79 is a piece of legislation with great import for Lafayette and other communities. And I think we've kind of talked through it before, where generally within a transit-oriented development like our BART station, there are two spheres. One is a quarter-mile sphere where, in our case, the development would be up to 80 units per acre. And then beyond that, in the quarter-mile to half-mile sphere, it'd be 60 units per acre. And there's a lot beyond that, but that's the core concept. And when the mayor and I and our city manager went to Sacramento in end of June and met with different legislators, this bill was the main topic of conversation, because by and large, when you apply those zoning upgrades to the quarter-mile and half-mile spheres, it's a significant increase in potential density. Now, you could say that what's the probability of all that happening? You might say it's actually very slight, but nonetheless, it does create an opportunity for a rather dramatic increase in density and number of units in the area around the BART station. And we've had some back and forth trying to discern, well, what does that actually mean? There's a graphic at the end of the section on SB 79, where we kind of thought, given the way we understood the bill as drafted, that BART template would be the station and the parking lots as the BART properties, which creates this sort of oval or lozenge image as it goes around the BART properties. So depending on how you draw that, how the geometry gets figured out, you could have a larger space like the one we've assumed. I do want to say that since that session in late June and with the legislators, the Legislation Committee has worked through concepts to try to guess what we think are our key issues here, which are primarily related to evacuations in the event of a wildfire. That's the scenario that I think causes us the greatest concern, in as much as you've got areas, and this graphic sort of gets at it as well. You have areas within many of these evacuation zones that circle the BART station that are in high fire severity zones. So in the case where you've got a wildfire event, say coming out of Briones with Diablo winds, evacuation orders will be issued, and you're going to have everyone in, say, one of the Happy Valley zones trying to get out at about the same time. And that is the prospect that causes us the greatest concern. It's like that by adding denser housing around the BART station, what you're going to do is increase the time it takes for people to get out. And the mayor pointed out that there was a study done in conjunction with a safety element back in 2022, the Fair and Pure study, that showed that within these different areas, there were a variety of evacuation times. In the Happy Valley area, anywhere from 30 to 75 minutes. In the area to the southeast, it went up to 175 minutes in some places. So the expectation was that even without any additional development, there would be a fair amount of time for people to get out. I think that notion's been backed up by a recent study the city of Berkeley did, which showed that evacuation times from the Berkeley Hills is rather significant, would be in a similar situation if that were the case. So we crafted some language and worked with our lobbyist, Casey Elliott at Townsend, wherein the certain areas within a designated evacuation zone that incorporated a high fire or very high fire severity area would be exempted from the bill. So that would, in effect, carve out some of the areas that circle the BART station. There's about 3 evacuation zones that would be impacted by that, which sort of would reduce the scope of the bill as it applies to Lafayette. There still would be density increases in that scenario, but not to the extent that the current bill is presented. So crafted language, presented that to our Assemblymember Bauer Cahan, our Senator Grayson, for their consideration, encouraging them to please accept that language and try to further it along in the legislation process. Senator Grayson asked us to meet with some of the proponents for the bill who are working with Senator Weiner on this, Cal Yimby, and there's a lobbying firm, Brownstein, I think, that are working on the measure with Senator Weiner. And we did that today, where I sat down with our city manager and also our city manager, Linda Smith from Orinda, in this session, along with staff, to talk through with them our analysis of the bill as it pertains to development in Lafayette, what we think it means. And fortunately, we have planning staff who are very adept with GIS systems, so we could try to plot out the expected number of units that would be derived from the bill and present our concerns with respect to evacuation risk. Our city manager drove around different parts of the city, took some pictures of typical streets, 20 feet wide, surrounded by trees. This is basically how people get out of this town. And we present that to them as well. And then explored with them the idea of carving out the evacuation zones. I have to say that that didn't get a ringing endorsement from the parties we were dealing with. They kind of were thinking about it, but I get the feeling that's not likely to be accepted by them. They talked about some other measures that maybe parcels that are in high fire, or actually they said very high fire severity zones, might get carved out for now to be dealt with in the next RENA cycle. So it's just deferring it, but not really addressing it. That was some of the gist that they were. So it was a polite, good discussion, but in terms of getting our concept across to them, I think they understood it, but weren't really to go there. I think part of it is that this notion of exempting out evacuation zones that have higher, very far higher severity zones is a concept that could be applied to later legislation. They were concerned that, does that open up something that really hasn't been dealt with before? I think in our mind, especially given what happened in the Palisades and Altadena earlier this year, how do you not consider that? So, so that's kind of where that stood. Our city manager is following up with Senator Grayson and our Assemblymember Bauer Cahan to do a follow-up with them as soon as possible to talk through the session, but also our proposed amendment to sort of try to get traction with them on this concept. My understanding is that, well, right now the legislature is in recess. They will reconvene. I believe it starts next week. And a key date is at the end of the month, that on the 29th, I think the bill comes up for a vote of the Appropriations Committee in the Assembly, and then the legislature is back in full session in September. So there's not a lot of time here. I did have a chance to catch up with the mayor a little bit earlier today, give her a briefing, an update on this. But to us, the key thing right now is to have a sit down with our state senator and assembly member to talk through our issues, to talk through our proposal, and see if we can advance it with them. So that's kind of the gist of that discussion. So we're an opposed on the bill. However, if somehow Senator Weiner accepted our language, we might come back and might say, look, at least go neutral on this. But right now, I don't see that happen. Right. So that's kind of the recap.
Okay, questions?
I do have a question. I just you teased the idea or the thought that our staff had done some GIS projection about how many units might be there, even with the carve-outs. Can you share what that number was?
So I can, and in round terms. And I'm
Sure.
going a
Oh,
member.
no, I am not going to hold
Yeah.
you to it. I'm just kind of curious what we're talking about.
So it depends on the geometry. So for example, if you draw the lines around the BART lots, the parking lots where you get this oval, within that, the total number of units that would apply is about 50,000.
You're saying, just to be clear on this 50,000, you're saying that is the number of units that would be the potential upzoning.
So that would be the potential number of units that you could have within that geometry, within that space.
Is that effective use? Or that's just taking the number of acres and times the number of zones, because there's streets and there's all.
Right, so that's net of streets and public rights of way and so on, the EB mud easement, BART parking, so the highway.
50,000.
And we did point out and that is like a theoretical number in that because you do have units on the land now.
Sorry.
We don't know quite what that number is. We have to get the data from the county and process that. But in as much as Lafayette's got just over 10,000 units, if you take out 5,000, it's 4,500, 44,000. It's a lot. It's a lot.
And just to be clear, the 50,000 is with the carve out, or that's the entirety of the extended oval?
That's the entirety of the oval.
Okay, so
quarter mile
50,000 unit high water mark, and then the carve out, just looking at the diagram, squinting at it, maybe you're carving a third of the number out, right? It would still be 30,000 or something like that, right?
We think it'd be lower than that.
Okay.
And there's some language in the bill which was added in a recent draft, which talks about like a walkway. So areas that have like a walking path would be exempted. Key questions like, what's a walking path?
Right.
And one might say that might be in the eye of the beholder. I would think that would mean a sidewalk or a way a pedestrian could walk safely as opposed to in the middle of a street. But that's a question mark to me.
Right. Okay. And then just a follow-up question there. So it sounds like, but the group that you're talking to today, even though we've done some thinking about it, they weren't that excited about it. So our confidence in this getting kind of up to the highest levels and getting implemented are slimmer than you thought they might be. And so is your recommendation to stick with just kind of a standard oppose, and we just kind of keep it rolling?
I keep it as an oppose for now, recognizing that we need to talk to our senator and assembly member and really push that with them. If there's a way to work, this is my personal opinion, but if we could get to a place where our evacuation language was accepted, that mitigates the impact in a way where, we can maybe figure out what to do with the residual number of units we'd have to come up with. That's just my personal opinion.
Are we doing questions now? We're going to come back with comments later, right? Right. Okay, then final question, I have comments after this, but has there been any discussion what this means, like how this intersects with our current RENA cycle? Because it's very confusing, because this is completely offset from like our RENA cycles, and we've got a certain number that are approved, and you have this thing like in between, and how does that, I don't understand how that works.
That's a great question, and I'm sort of chuckling here because yes, that has been raised. The Orinda city manager raised that as well. And I gather from the conversation that's been raised by other cities, in as much as we're sort of in the middle of the RENA cycle, or in our case at the beginning, because HCD only approved us earlier this year.
Right.
And yet this completely undoes it. And to the point where you might say, what's the point of RENA?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, if
Yeah.
this is approved, is that even relevant? RENA, is it RENA even relevant?
I would kind of think I've asked this question of some of the proponents, but like, what's the point of doing RENA anymore?
Very good point. For a city like ours, I agree. The problem is, how when new laws go into effect, you can't take advantage of any of them. And so it doesn't change our housing element at all. The way I see it, it's like when SB 9 passed, we get some things like, well, they don't know how it's going to work. And so we can't take advantage of that in our housing element. Right. And so they're going to discount this until these things start coming in and you can prove that you actually can build with them. And then they might let you use them as units.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. And there was some analysis in the towns that we saw where it kind of said, well, HED is so overwhelmed anyway and overworked that they can't even begin to analyze this. It feels like, anyway, sorry, I'll get the comment later.
Yeah, I'll skip my comment too. Let me ask, what is the legislative committee and city management looking for tonight from the council? on this AB 79,
SB 79.
SB 79.
Yeah,
I think some direction that you support, if we go back and talk to Grayson and our assembly member, if we can get them to try to champion these, amendments, great. I do want to say I started drafting a letter that Jim has seen, that we could go to the public and get them to pressure Senator Grayson and Assemblymember Rebecca Barakahan, explaining this in great detail. And to me, my ask would be, if we can get them to do it without the pressure, maybe we don't go full throttle and get the public all crazy. Or if we're not going to get their buy-in, or if they think that this bill is just going to pass and there's nothing we can do to change it, then we go nuclear and get the public to help.
yeah, I believe, there's been conversations with our senator and assembly member, and I think we owe it to them to come back and sit down with them and go through it out of respect for their position with us, and in a way to have a really deep conversation. And I would, that is, to me, is the next item on the agenda in dealing with them.
Okay.
And I appreciate the mayor in that that's where the legislation committee is, that's the direction we're moving in. We think that the language that we created with the help of our lobbyists to carve out these evacuation areas, we think is sound.
But and I'm sorry, just again, questioning, because but you are thinking you'd rather do that than strictly just oppose it. I guess, because presumably if we had a amendment that we supported, we would have to, the implication we would then approve with the amendment, right? So we're saying that's a better path?
Pull our opposition. Yes.
Okay, but we're thinking that's a better path than just.
For the health and safety of our residents, yes. This is a health and safety impact.
Oh, no,
This
no,
is
I'm
not.
actually not, I guess I'm.
But
I'm
that would be our trade-off. It's like, we're going to get this for our residents. And so, yes, we would pull our opposition because it relates so directly to our own residents.
Okay, so why don't we come back then after public comment, and we'll focus on this some more. Are there any questions about the other two, SB 707 and SB 750? Anyone?
Actually, I did have a
question. Councilmember.
So 707, I guess I was unclear what the amendment, we said opposed unless amended. It was just unclear because we exempted municipalities under 30,000 anyway. So I guess I was unclear what the amendment really was that we were asking for.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we're actually affected anyway.
There's language in that with respect to counties of a population. There's a few exemptions, but if a county's less than 600,000 people, or a county's more than that. So it's a little unclear as to whether that applies to us or not.
But
right, we think it actually might apply to us.
Yeah.
Oh, because we're in a county that's so big?
Yeah.
Yep.
That means every city in a large county, even if you're a tiny city?
Correct.
Oh, okay. So the amendment would clarify that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Correct.
Oh, I
It would
totally-
also, the oppose unless amended, it's because we agree that all this, the additional work could apply to the city council, but that it should not apply to the subsidiary bodies. Because as it is currently drafted, a subcommittee meeting of the council will have to be it will be subject to these rules.
Because we have a county, our county.
County's population.
I see.
Not our population.
Well, that seems that I understand. So the amendment, okay, I understood then that I fully agree with that amendment. Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, public comment.
Vice Mayor Anduri is taking comments on item 17E. I have no speaker slips for persons in the community hall, and I have no hands raised in our virtual audience. So no speakers.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council, and we'll take SB 79 first, giving direction to the legislative committee. So let's come back. Councilman Cervantes, you were about to say something. What is your understanding now about what direction you would like to get? And then we'll discuss that.
I think the direction would be to meet as soon as possible with our state senator and assembly member to argue in favor of language that would exempt evacuation areas with high fire severity risk as a public safety measure. That so that would be our main thing. We could drop them out, then we can mitigate some of the risk that would apply to the community. So that's the thrust of it. It's a compromise in that there'd be other portions of the city in that area around the BART station that would have to be upzoned, but I just sort of view that as a compromise. And if I could parenthetically note, one thing I was going to say is the bill has momentum. It cleared the Senate by one vote, but it did clear the Senate. It's cleared the assembly committees that are in play, housing and local government, by decent margins. It's up in Senate Assembly Appropriations to likely clear that. So it could be a close vote, but out of respect to Senator Wiener, he's been dogged in pursuing the bill. And his team is working it diligently. So I think that my take, and this is just my opinion, is better to craft a compromise that works for us, that addresses our key issues with respect to public safety. And if there's increased density, in certain areas, we can maybe work to deal with that. But just say flat out, no, I'm not sure this is going to get us anything. And again, that's my personal opinion. The mayor may have a different view.
Okay, Mayor
You're
Kendall.
right. And that's why these upcoming talks are so important. They will, and also with Casey, to find out how much momentum this bill really has right now. And to see if they'll be willing to champion, I mean, really, truly champion for us, because I think that's what it's going to take. They can't just say, oh yeah, we kind of like your amendments. It's like, no, you need to be signing up to take this. Otherwise, I feel compelled to let our citizens know, and Orinda and Moraga know what is about to happen to us. This bill and so many of the other housing bills, but this particular one in particular, is our state legislature is all about the building blocks, the housing, but they forgot the people. They don't care about the people who will be going into these or who they're going to be impacting. And if they don't allow these kind of amendments for something like that, it's a wholesale sellout on the health and safety of a lot of people in California, and that's got to be called out. At some point we just have to say no, and so I'll be very wary of dropping our opposition until I've got a ink signing on this thing that it's actually being changed. And I still think we should warn our residents, because this is the biggest thing that is going to happen to our city ever, right? These numbers are insane, and it will completely change the nature of our towns without any input from any of us, and negatively impact, and we knowingly negatively impact people's ability to evacuate in terms of a high fire, and they need to know that. And that we're trying, to get these amendments in, and we're trying to get these changes in, and, help us, lean on our representatives to make our point, because it's affecting them very personally.
Okay, just to clarify, the city is on record now as opposed.
For sure, yes.
Sorry, I saw on the analysis, our city's name is in there.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that we are,
Yeah.
as of now, we are on record as opposed. Okay, so the nuance that I'm hearing is, well, let's take the first part. I mean, is there, Mala, we don't need to get a vote on this, right? I mean, if everyone is agreed, the first part of the direction I hear, there's no, everybody's on agreement with it, I've heard, but we can discuss it, is that we move as soon as possible. What Jim described, is there any?
I have to tell you, I'm actually deeply uncomfortable with it. I'm going to
Okay.
trust you guys on it, but I view, even if we carved out the evacuation zones, so instead of 50,000 units, we're 20,000 units or 10,000 units, that's going to mess up evacuation anyway. So that's why I understand it's made the best we can do. I still feel like it doesn't, if you have 10,000 new units around the BART station, even in the non-evacuation zones, you are dramatically impacting the evacuation routes. Everybody has to go through those zones to get to the freeway. So I guess I am unclear how it really, other than it takes it from a code 10 to a code 5, it doesn't seem like it's really solving the problem.
You're absolutely right, John. You're looking at this correctly. But if it's going to pass anyway, do we still
I know.
try?
And that's,
right?
I guess, and that's where I'm gonna leave it to you guys. If the momentum is gonna happen, it's gonna pass anyway. This is better than nothing. But boy, I would just like to oppose it with every fiber of my being like it is, and not give an inch, because it's so egregious on so many levels. It just feels like, it doesn't feel, I don't know. But I'm really, you guys, actually, you have a lot more experience in this than I do, so I'm just giving my gut on this one.
So I think, to me, this is a case that the perfect is the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying, but, and there are, granted, if you had a massive increase in density in the downtown outside of those evacuation areas, that would affect,
Yeah.
it would affect
it would.
evacuation timing.
Mhm.
But, I think what we're trying to do is at least sort of mitigate it where the areas that are at greatest risk, we've addressed those as best we can. But again, not a perfect solution, but one, if I take the view this bill's got a pretty good likelihood of passing.
I appreciate this pragmatic approach. I think putting on record the concern is really important, even if it will be dismissed and not considered. So I think it's a reasonable approach.
Well, but that's what I'm having trouble with. Because I think that should be on record too, and I'm not sure how we're going to be doing that. Because the first steps we're taking are trying to get the amendment, which will make the situation better. And I agree completely with the danger of the perfect being the enemy of good. We have examples of that in Lafayette. But it puts us in a very awkward situation, because even if we were to get our amendment and the bill were to pass, we are in a terrible, terrible situation. So, I mean, we're better than we would be if we didn't have the amendment, but it's still a terrible situation. So how do we move towards the amendment, but at the same time make clear to decision makers? I mean, is this part of the discussion with Senator Grayson and our assembly member that, we need this to at least make it better, but please understand we're in a terrible situation. I take it there's no way that our representatives will vote no on this? Senator Grayson was one of the yes votes.
It was.
But he was under the impression, and I think this was genuine, he was under the impression that we were going to get it exempted, these fire zones.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance that he was told, at least by the response that we got from him, and it seemed very genuine. He's like, no, you're not in it. It's like, yes, we are in it. And that took him by complete surprise.
Yeah. And that's what he said.
Yep.
And with respect to Assemblymember Bauer-Cahan, she's not been on one of the committees where this has come up for a vote.
Right.
So have we not heard, do we not have a conversation with her?
I haven't, I don't know, if Mayor Kendall, if you have.
Yes, I did. I was on a call with the three mayors with Rebecca, and she was aghast. She was just as, so I think she'll be easier to convince in some ways than Senator Grayson.
That's
But
right.
I don't know. But I don't know
Because
I don't know how much pull she is going to have regardless. And so that's the question. Do we go out and at least educate our residents that this is coming? Because they don't know. I mean, so many of them have no idea that this is coming, and it is, like you say, it's a tsunami, and we're not warning them. And that's why I feel compelled to write this letter and to kind of explain what, and so in my heart of hearts, all five of us would sign it, but I can just send it off myself too, just to educate people about what's coming and make it as vanilla as we can.
is the letter going to say support our amendment, or oppose 79? I mean, I guess I'm confused with the letter.
Saying is like, that would be the question. If it's from me, I will go for educating and saying, hey, we will consider dropping our position if we can get this small amendment in, and that's because we think it's going to pass. We might as well get something in. Right.
That's such a subtle message.
It
I actually
is.
think,
It is.
I mean, my personal thing is, I think a letter from the city on this, I would agree. I think we can only do the letter. My personal thing
Yeah.
would either be strictly educate what as is now and say, talk to your representatives and follow your heart.
Mhm.
And we don't do it, or we say we're opposing it. My personal thing is, I think if we do something like we're trying to do this amendment that's going to lower the number from 50,000 to 10,000, it's going to be a very muddled message.
Good point.
My personal.
That's a good point.
But I'm all for a letter. I'm all for agitating. I'd love to have the Orinda.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, that'd be ideal.
I think it should be. I think it needs to be black and white. It's too complicated, I think, to bring in this third thing.
Okay, so I'm going to try to break these into pieces, but one direction would be for the legislative committee to pursue what Jim has outlined, conveying to the senator that this is a big problem for Lafayette. We would hope that he would oppose it, but if we facing political realities, at least let's make it a bit safer for Lafayette and move on that front. Okay, so are we all in agreement on moving forward that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, then come to the issue of informing the public. And I'm in favor of putting something out there. I would use as the vehicle, and just a suggestion, put something in the weekly roundup, since that now reaches, we have about 8,000 people that goes to. And putting something there that describes the impact of SB 79 as currently written.
It's going to be written.
Sure.
And ask people to express their views to their representatives.
Okay, and make it as but we can also say that all three cities and Walnut Creek have opposed it. That's truth.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
That is
great.
That is truth.
Yeah, I highly support that.
Okay, so now, is there anything else that anyone thinks we should do at this point? And I would say, I'd leave it to the legislative committee and the city manager to do, because this is going to be a fluid situation.
Yeah.
We're not going to be meeting again until September 8th. I'm sure I would be supportive of anything that they chose.
Absolutely. I think we need to empower them to use your best judgment.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're discussing 17E2 SB 707. The recommendation is that we oppose unless amended so that it doesn't apply to subsidiary body meetings such as commissions, committees, and subcommittees. Okay, do we need a formal vote or just we do need a formal vote? Okay, do I have a motion to support that recommendation?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Mayor Candell.
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick.
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. It's unanimous. Okay, and we did have public comment on all of these. Okay, we're on to SB 750. The recommendation is support in concept. Is there any further discussion before we go to a motion? Seeing none, is there a motion to adopt the recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mayor Candell.
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick.
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so it's unanimous in favor of the recommendation. Okay, thank you to the Legislative Committee. Thank you to our city manager for all the work on this.
And if I could chime in for a second, I really would like to echo that and to thank the city manager and planning staff for really the amazing work that they did. I kind of think that the folks you met with are a bit surprised by the depth of the analysis, and I'm not sure how many other cities have done this, but we've got some individuals who've got some really strong analytical capabilities, which is a huge help in this effort. So at least we can sort of define what the scope of the bill is. And that's something we'll be presenting to our representatives in Sacramento.
Great, thank you. All right, on to item 18A, the email from the former mayors of our fellow Lafayettes in Indiana and Colorado. We have the letter, the recommendation is approve of a proclamation of support for the restoration of a replica of the Marquis de Lafayette ship. Do we need any further presentation than what is in the staff? Actually, we don't have a staff.
Can I, no, can I add something?
Yes,
So-
please.
So I get this, somewhat random email, from these other places, named Lafayette around our country, and having no idea, what direction we should go. I immediately reached out to Mary McCosker, and I said, "Hey, Mary, will you take a look at this and let me know what you think?" And she goes, "Oh, we have a meeting tomorrow night." I'm like, that is so convenient. And so she emailed me right after their meeting and says, "We are enthusiastically supporting this particular proclamation." I went, "That's all I need." So you guys can make your own decisions, but that was how this came to be on our agenda. Otherwise, I would not have brought it. But with their resounding support, I went, "Okay, we're good."
Then I also point out that all council members, I think all council members,
Oh, were
yes,
you guys all on it? I don't even know. Yeah.
received this May 3rd email from a resident of, does he live in Tiburon? Who notified us that there was an event to support the fundraising for the ship at the Berkeley Yacht Club in May. And, also pointing out the effort and saying that two former mayors had started outreach to Lafayette cities. So there is somebody in the Bay Area who's taking leadership in this as well. Okay, so why don't we get public comment and then bring it back? So is there any public comment on this?
Vice Mayor Anduri is taking public comments on item 18A. I have no speaker slips for persons in the community hall, and I have no virtual hands raised.
Okay, so any thoughts on the resolution?
I think that makes sense. If Mary McCosker's for it, I'm for it. It's all good.
I love history. This is great. If they could fix the fungal damage on the planks, I'd love to go for a ride on the ship.
Seems all good, doesn't it?
I'd move approval.
Agreed.
I'll second.
Okay, now, just so everyone is aware, the emails, of course, did mention fundraising and requests for funds. We're going back with enthusiastic support. I would expect within a month we'll get a follow-up. So I just want you all to be aware that that's most likely going to happen. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We'll take the vote. Mayor Kendall?
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick?
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes?
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. It's unanimous. All right. So we're on to item 18B. Letter from the Rotary Club requesting street closure for the Keep On Trucking event on October 11th. And we have the letter. Are there anything to add to this? Any questions about the event? Okay, any public comment?
Any public comment on item 18B? I see no speaker slips and there's no virtual hands raised.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council. Any comments?
So I'd like to state for the record that I'm a member of the Lafayette Rotary proudly. I did check with our city attorney to make sure that there's no conflict here. She concluded that they did not, so I'm not recusing myself. I also want to state for the record that I'm helping in a peripheral way with this effort. But it was something that was done before last year, attracted a lot of families. It raised money for local charities. So it's kind of a good community event. And that's what the Rotary is trying to do.
Okay, do we have a motion approving the event and adopting resolution 2025-44?
I'll move on this one.
Okay,
Second.
Okay. Mayor Kendall,
Aye.
Councilmember McCormick,
Aye.
Councilmember Cervantes.
Aye.
Councilmember Witherspoon,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. So 5-0 in favor. Resolution carries. All right, we are adjourned.
can-
Before we adjourn, though, I just want to echo what the city manager said. Tomorrow is the first day of school. Anyone listening, drive especially safely tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of excited kids out there, and so be careful. Okay.
And can we also make a suggestion that we adjourn in honor of our newest council member, Stella Weatherspoon? Thank you. You made it through your first
All right.
meeting.
Thank you.
Adjourning in honor of our newest council member.
Yes.
See you in September.